And we are live.
Okay, we live then, I guess. All right, everybody, welcome to the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Danowitz. All right, everybody,
Wow. Hello.
Hello. Do we lose Bill? I think we lost Bill. I don't know what Bill's doing.
Hang on. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wait, where'd he go?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
we can hear you.
I think he's delayed is what the problem
Oh,
is.
that must be it. Yeah.
You can hear me. Okay. All right, everybody, welcome to the Comic Book Bears podcast.
It's a good thing that we're recording this, so the audio version is going to be edited down. So for those of you, if you are watching, and I see John Runyon is watching tonight on Facebook. Hi, John. We are experiencing some technical difficulties, but Bill should be back on very shortly. John actually is providing a little compliment here to Mr. Mike.
I think I'm in now.
You're in.
All
You're
right,
in.
great.
You look better too.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Because I kind of knocked the cable out, so that's what the problem was going on there. Okay, so anyway, let's start this over again. Welcome to the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or in this case, stream in. And last year we had a Star Wars-centric episode that we really dug, and it's been too long, but we have gotten the band of rebels back together for it, and we're going to be talking about things like The Mandalorian and Clone Wars that was a 2020 product, and some of the recent comic books, some of the upcoming stuff. So we brought back the two gentlemen that joined us last time. So please welcome Craig from the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast.
Hello,
Craig
everyone.
Lantz. Hey. And also Mike Lovins from the Real Gay Movie Show. Hey, Mike.
Hello.
So how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Wonderful.
Doing good.
Okay, I'm doing much better now that I'm not in Dalek world. How about you, Steve? How's it going?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. I'm excited. I've been wanting to do another Star Wars episode for a long time because how the soup gets made. These three guys, we talk a lot. Anytime there's any Star Wars news, anything cool to talk about Star Wars related, any memes to share, we're constantly chatting, like off camera.
Right.
So yeah, there's been so much in the past year since our last special that has happened and come out and been announced, and yeah, we definitely need to have another special.
Yeah.
Who knew that the last Star Wars movie was actually just going to be the beginning of an onslaught of more Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yes. Especially because it was going to be the death knell of Lucasfilm. That trilogy was going to be the downfall of everything.
Right.
You've been listening to the internet, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only get my news from We Got This Covered and
God.
Book News.
Can I tell you, I absolutely love that the next theatrical Star Wars film is going to be directed by a female. I absolutely love just that little dig into all the friggin' I don't know what you call them, empire incels. I don't know what the hell you call them.
Imperial incels.
Yeah. So.
I mean, the new rumor is that they're going to relaunch everything using time travel, right? They're going to make the sequel trilogy non-existent because they're going to use the worlds.
World within world.
Yeah.
I honestly don't believe that.
Oh, it's not going to happen. That's that same group of people that are listening to people like Doomcock on the internet. And getting their information from him.
Oh, Doomcock. Yeah. So descriptive and so much.
Right.
Anyway. So real quick, we do have some more people who have joined. With John Runyon, we've also got John Westhoff.
Hey, John.
We've got a Peter Lovins. I don't know if anybody knows him. Peter Lovins. We've also got Caleb Alexander McKenzie is visiting us and gracing us with his presence. And James Figueredo, a longtime friend of Comic Book Bears, and then also David Toby as well. Welcome.
Nice, especially for a Tuesday show because we've done all the streams on Thursday so far. So it's nice we have everybody aboard. Thanks so much. Maybe we can involve them a little later with some kind of Star Wars question about their favorites or something. Something that's become a hallmark on our live streams has been the Joan Rivers "What Are You Wearing" segment. So I'll go clockwise in the view that I have. So Steve, show us what you're wearing there. I think there might be a theme.
So I've got my wonderful hipster millennial Falcon that I love so much. It is one of my favorite Star Wars shirts. So there we go.
Millennial Falcon.
Yeah, Craig, what are you wearing?
I've got a Mandalorian shirt on.
Nice.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of a TV poster, movie poster type thing. Digging it, so
very nice.
Okay, and over to Mike. What do you got on there, sir?
I got Coming to a Galaxy, summer of '77.
I love it.
Well, I have something from the fall of '77. So I have the cover of Star Wars #5 from the original Marvel run.
Nice.
Yeah. So
nice.
I'm not sure if you guys ever follow some of the what are hot comics, but one thing that's recently become very hot has been Star Wars #2 from the original Marvel run. And it kind of makes perfect sense because this was the first comic book appearance of Han and Chewie, and it also predates the film. So all of a sudden, if you've seen like the price, I mean, they're not quite at the #1 level, or especially the #1 level at 35 cents, but they've skyrocketed like in the last 4 or 5 months.
Man, I just threw that one away.
I've been lining my bird cages with that. Oh man,
I wish I had it.
Yeah, I wish I had it so I could sell it immediately and then pay off the credit card or a mortgage. That would be nice.
Or buy another guitar.
Oh yeah, guitars. Ooh.
Right now, Peter's going no.
How many do you have, Mike?
So the purple one there is my newest one. So as far as guitars, I have 2 electric and 1 acoustic, and then I have 3 basses. Well, 4 basses, but the other one of them is just cased. It was one that was custom built for me, and but yeah, that's it. That's a small collection, I think.
Yeah. Have you ever? Have you always just played basses in bands, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But I've recently been really wanting to get more into playing guitar, whether it just be for writing or whatever. I've written a lot of songs. Confirmed. But yeah, bass is my instrument.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Oof. Well, so what do you say? Should we
Yeah,
talk
sure.
about
We can go ahead, and probably the the most marquee value project of recent times in terms of Star Wars has been The Mandalorian. And again, as I mentioned on the last time we got together for the podcast, we had a discussion about what we thought of the episodes. So I'm going from Wikipedia with the episode rundown for each of the 10 episodes. And then I figured we could talk about what we really liked, or in the possibility of something we dislike, we could also bring that as well.
I feel like we should. Are spoilers on the table? Because
I think we have to. I mean, I think it's we have to say that.
I just wanted to be sure, but
yeah. So we probably should say, if you were worried about spoilers, split and come back after you've watched. What's I guess 6 hours of television. Given the length of the episodes, and then come back. We'll be around. But for those of you who've already seen this, just jump in. So, especially since there has been the lag of about at this point. What was the last episode that aired? So that's been
Christmas.
Yeah, December 18th. December 18th was the last episode.
So a full month.
So we've got some space between us, so then don't cry. Okay, so the first episode this season was Chapter 9, The Marshal. The Mandalorian has been tasked with returning his charge, the child, to its people, the Jedi. He begins searching for other Mandalorians who he believes can help him find the Jedi, and is directed to a rumored Mandalorian operating out of the Tatooine town, Mos Pelgo. There he learns there is no Mandalorian in Mos Pelgo, but is confronted by Marshal Cobb Vanth, who wears Mandalorian armor. Vanth explains that he freed his town from the control of the mining collective using this armor, which he bought from Jawas in the desert. The town is now frequently attacked by a crate dragon. Vanth agrees to give the Mandalorian the armor back in exchange for helping killing the crate dragon. The Mandalorian arranges an agreement between the villagers of Mos Pelgo and a local clan of Tusken Raiders to work together to kill the crate dragon in exchange for peace between the groups. They lure out the crate dragon, which is ultimately killed by the Mandalorian. He leaves with Vanth's armor, watched by a scarred Boba Fett.
Yep.
Yeah, that happened.
That all happened.
One thing we probably should mention is that the Cobb Vanth character was from the recent novels, the recent Aftermath novels.
Aftermath trilogy.
Yeah.
Which not a huge part either. It was just like interludes, one single interlude in each of those books. So basically a chapter in each book. So it's just like this very minor offset character, but people who read those books just loved that character, me among them. And so when I found out that Cobb Vanth was going to be in that show, I just wanted to grab Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and say, thank you for looking at all of canon.
Yeah, this is the first of many fan services in this season. And fan service sometimes gets labeled as a dirty word, but not in this case. This, they show that fan service done right is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the best illustration of that was someone was distributing a picture of two kids playing with Star Wars toys in 1979, and underneath they had Filoni and Favreau.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about this episode, apart from all the cool, the whole crate dragon and that, basic homage to a lot of Westerns. Which again is part and parcel of the series, was, giving some more detail about Tusken culture.
Yeah,
right.
Which we've had in stuff like comics that are now legends, but there hasn't been too much within canon, as far as I know, about detailing what things were like. And as a little kid, like the last thing I thought was like the Tusken Raiders would be teaming up with anybody. And that was just such a cool dynamic at the end of that episode. Really love that.
I mean, there's so many things in this. I mean, you guys just talked about sort of minor character becoming important in a way where, they just get brought forward. The Krayt Dragon itself was just a throwaway line from the original Star Wars that I think Obi-Wan had said, that was the sound that Obi-Wan had made to scare away the Sand People originally.
And the skeleton on the dunes, but it was never said what that was.
Yeah,
exactly. And now here we have, the big bad or whatever of the MacGuffin of the episode is the Krayt Dragon, destroying the Krayt Dragon. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much that was in this. Getting to see more of Tatooine. It's not just Jabba's palace and Mos Eisley. There's actually like another town. There are people who make a living out somewhere else beside where we've actually seen this planet before. And as Caleb had mentioned, it's totally not Dune, so it's just another desert planet. But I really enjoyed this one, and of course, I think everybody collectively had that moment, that geeky gasp moment at the very end, as we see, Boba Fett watching, who may or may not have been Boba Fett. Obviously, it's completely confirmed next year, the next week. Boba Fett watching, watching him take off with his armor that somehow survived. Well, he survived, but also the armor survived.
But it wasn't in great shape. I mean, I think that they did a good job of showing that it went through something, and back real quick to the idea of fan service. What I really appreciate is that it was fan service, but it was in service to the story. It wasn't just to be done.
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
David Toby here has a quick mention about that. Everything from Mining Guild uniforms to the Krayt Dragon design comes from the expanded universe, which I mean, we really don't have a lot of description or a lot of information from the original films. It's all from the expanded, from the books, from a lot of other media that's come up in the past.
That's right.
40 years.
And that's one thing I have to say is, the elements that have been introduced from the expanded universe, whether it's been Thrawn or some of the many other characters we'll talk about through this episode, that they've been really, really well realized introductions. One thing I would love to see Mara Jade somehow. I would love to see her somehow in the mix, but I don't want to see it perfunctory. I want there to be depth to how they do that, how they introduce that character, and what now her backstory would be. So I echo what you said, Mike. It services the story. It's not just for ticking the box. There's a lot more behind it than that. All right, let me move on to the second episode of the season, which was called The Passenger, Chapter 10. And this was an episode that was directed by Peyton Reed, worth mentioning. And the Mandalorian agrees to take the Frog Lady, which is how she's known, and her eggs from Tatooine to an estuary moon Trask, where her husband will fertilize the eggs in exchange for information on other Mandalorians. Due to the eggs' fragility, they must travel at slow sublight speed. On their journey, they are confronted by X-Wing fighters who force the Mandalorian to a nearby icy planet because he is wanted by the New Republic for his role in a prison break. He crash lands on the planet. While the Mandalorian fixes the ship, the child stumbles upon numerous eggs inside an ice cave, which hatch to reveal a swarm of spider-like creatures. The Mandalorian, the child, and the passenger are trapped in the Razor Crest, which is the Mandalorian ship, until the X-Wing pilots find them and kill the creatures. They explain because the Mandalorian helped apprehend his accomplices from the prison break, they will drop the arrest warrant and leave him with a warning. After the Mandalorian finishes the repairs, the tattered Razor Crest takes off and resumes its journey to Trask. Okay, so in this episode, we basically find that the child is an apex predator.
Yeah. I think a lot of people had plenty to say about basically the child just chowing down on the future spawn of this poor frog woman.
Well,
you could say he has a genocidal appetite.
Well, yeah. I think a lot of people misunderstood, thinking that they were the last of their species,
Right.
frog lady and frog man, and that is not the case. So people jump to conclusions a lot of times on this stuff, and as the internet is apt to do, they went nuts with it, and we ended up with genocidal baby Yoda.
And I have to tell you, I do not have a fear of spiders. I've had friends who've had tarantulas. They've never bothered me. Space spiders kind of freak me out. So there were moments in this episode where I was like, that kind of like, okay, is it over? All right.
Oh, well, and not only that, but they started with the alien, Ridley Scott alien version of the eggs that are all in there just opening up. And then here's this sort of spindly creature. I'm like, really?
And I think the concept for those spiders came from concept art for Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Because it's the design is it's just really creepy. One cameo that I did love in this is one of the fighter pilots. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee is the actor. If you're a fan of Canadian sitcoms, he plays the father, the main character on Kim's Convenience. I also have a huge crush on him, and he's a huge nerd, which is wonderful. So this is one of those kind of cameos where the actor was just jumping up and down and like giggling nonstop off camera.
There's all kinds of pictures of him out there doing Star Wars cosplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was fun that they, one of the things that Favreau has really been doing in encouraging the casting. And I know it's not just him. I know that there's some really great casting directors that are involved in the show too, but just encouraging all of these celebrities and just super fans to come onto the show, and just, even if it's a minor character or a character in, completely in a stormtrooper armor where you're not going to see their face, they're getting a lot of people to come and do that. And I think the Star Wars movies have always done that. Like the latest trilogy, you had several big name people. In fact, I think was Prince Harry one of them as well? Like some British royals were?
They did say that after the show is over, they're going to reveal some of the cameos that you don't know are cameos. Also, on the other side of that, they have opened up some of the casting to local 501sts and stormtrooper groups, and actually using stormtrooper uniforms, because again, with a used universe, that's probably the look they want. It's kind of perfect for that. So that's episode 2.
Well,
move.
I will say
anything else?
Real quick.
Go ahead.
If Filoni and Favreau happen to be listening, I am a super fan, and I would be glad to be a extra on any of the episodes.
Same.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
spend the rest of my life touring and doing conventions, signing my autograph.
And if you go to conventions, that's what you'll do. People, but I mean, I think that's a dream for everybody.
Right.
With even it's like Stormtrooper number 17. Yeah. Over here.
Or Levi, Admiral Levi. In the background.
Oh yeah, Admiral Gene Sky. Was that the episode following? No, it was a couple episodes following that.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, so moving on to the third episode of the series, which is The Heiress, and this was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. And if you ever get into an argument about how women cannot direct action, just refer to this episode, because it was kind of amazing at the end of the episode. At Trask, the Frog Lady reunites with her husband and they direct the Mandalorian to a local inn where he can find information on other Mandalorians. A fisherman offers to take the Mandalorian to the others, but on board the fishing ship, he is ambushed by fishermen who want to sell his armor. The Mandalorian and the child are rescued by 3 Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan Kryze.
Kryze.
Sorry. It was just always been Bo-Katan from the carryover from Clone Wars. Yeah. She enlists the help in seizing weapons from an Imperial fighter in exchange for information on the Jedi. After boarding the freighter, Bo-Katan reveals that the main objective is to capture the ship along with the weapons for their war effort to reconquer Mandalore. The Imperial captain is instructed by Moff Gideon to crash the ship, but his efforts are stopped by Bo-Katan, who questions the captain about the Darksaber. He commits suicide. Bo-Katan directs the Mandalorian to meet the Jedi Ahsoka Tano in the city of Caladan on the forest planet of Corvus. With the Razor Crest partially repaired, the Mandalorian and the child continue on their journey.
Yeah, this episode had the first... I mean, we saw what we thought was Boba Fett earlier, but this was like that first big... moment, seeing Bo-Katan, and then of course to be played by Katie Sackhoff was just amazing.
Yeah. I thought I was excited with Cobb Vanth. I think I had my first real showgasm when Bo-Katan showed up.
yeah. I mean, it was that first moment in this. I mean, again, we had Boba Fett, we had Vanth, but it was just so great to see her in a live action.
Yeah. I mean some down to the details, like the armor detail, the print on the armor and everything was just straight right from it.
Yeah, maybe the listeners / viewers aren't aware, but she was a main character in the Clone Wars and Rebels show.
Yeah. And one thing I have to say, being a comic book fan, when we see comic book characters come to life, it's always a bit off, Right. I mean, it might be a situation that makes sense for live action, but it's never quite how you picture it. Steve, I'm sure we can debate this later. I don't know, but it's always just a little bit off. This is like coming like right off the animated screen.
Yeah,
I mean, they just did a tremendous job with the real how this was actualized. It's really something.
I think when you've got characters too, like with how involved Dave Filoni is, when he's getting to take characters that he created,
right,
and he wants to see them as realized as possible, and the vision that he had for them. So. It's different, like Superman appearing on screen because the person that created Superman isn't the one making the movie. But So one thing I will say, and obviously you mentioned Ahsoka, so we know she's coming up. But I mentioned this on my podcast a few days ago, but I give Dave Filoni so much credit for having the resolve to the patience, I should say, to let the first season of The Mandalorian be its own thing and introduce these, and wait till the second before he starts giving us all of his, animated characters in live action. I feel like that took some really stepping back for him.
Yeah,
self-control.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay, let me move on to the next episode. And the next episode was Chapter 12, The Siege. This was an episode that was directed by cast member Carl Weathers. And the Razor Crest requires further repairs before it can reach Corvus. So the Mandalorian and the child take a detour to Navarro, where they are reunited with their allies Cara Dune and Greef Karga. Just backtracking, Carl Weathers plays Greef Karga. While the Razor Crest is being repaired, the Mandalorian is shown how much things have improved on Navarro since he was last there under the stewardship of Karga as magistrate and Dune as the marshal. The last challenge that they are facing is a remaining Imperial base on the planet, and the Mandalorian agrees to help them destroy it. They discover that the base is being used as a laboratory by Dr. Pershing, character from the first season, to conduct experiments with the child's blood, which has a high M count. They destroy the base and escape, pursued by stormtroopers on speeder bikes and TIE fighters. Dune and Karga manage to stop the speeder bikes while the Mandalorian destroys the TIE fighters with the repaired Razor Crest. The Mandalorian and the child leave for Corvus, unaware that an Imperial spy has planted a tracker on the Razor Crest for Moff Gideon.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's more to this episode than have been made to be aware yet. I think that this is setting up some future stuff that is possibly going to tie into the sequel trilogy with the clones. And I mean, I'm not sure what was in those vats, what those clones were in those vats yet. But I think there's definitely going to be some future stuff that comes out of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure, Craig, you may have caught this. I didn't catch it right away. I had to kind of be told this myself. But so those scientists are all wearing patches that represent the cloning facilities on Kamino.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either. I was, somebody pointed it out, whether it was a meme on the internet or whatever, but it was pointed out to me. And yeah, that is a really interesting aspect of that we don't know where it's going quite yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really agree. I think this has something very directly, important to the Imperial or the Emperor's cloning efforts, either to clone himself or
Snoke,
create sort of versions of himself. Snoke, his son, Rey's father,
right,
who's also who is a failed clone of him, failed enough that he was able to escape and have a kid. But yeah, I mean, this is all really interesting. I also like we all kind of snickered at the same time with the high M count. I don't think anybody's mentioned the word midichlorians since the prequel trilogy got a lot of flack for taking the sort of mystical nature of the Force kind of out of Force sensitivity. I think that was one of the biggest disappointments from the prequel series for me. In that, it's really just you have a lot of these things in your blood that just make you more sensitive to cosmic radiation or something. Of course, but it is interesting that they brought that concept back up because it really hasn't been mentioned since.
Well, and even before season 1 came out, there were reports that they had said that this show was going to at least show some of the start of the First Order and so I can kind of see where maybe that's kind of where this is going.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are confused with the timeline, and as soon as I said it's 5 years after Jedi, they're like, "Oh, okay." Now, 19 things make sense. Yeah.
I think also the Baby Yoda confuses them.
Yeah, and definitely. And I also have to say, I'm sure we all watched it within its first few days. So a moment of silence for Gene's guy, who was in the initial episode and then digitally removed.
Yeah.
So, I really hope that he makes the Oscar reel this year. In memoriam.
I want him as canon. I'm
Zoom
sorry. In. Just as we've received, elements of the holiday special are now canon. Why not Gene's guy?
Well, they for a while had a post on Wikipedia for him. So I don't know if it's been taken down yet or not. It was Admiral Gene's, I think, was his name.
If the Boom guy can get famous, why can't Gene's get
right?
Well, and see, this I think is kind of it's really interesting, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but I think this is really kind of the great thing and the sad thing about living in the current digital streaming era, in that people who watched the show when it first premiered for the first couple of days were able to see him, but very quickly afterwards they were able to digitally remove him. So anybody else after this point, including people who originally saw it, won't be able to see that same mistake again. They removed a lot of.
It's kind of a Star Wars thing. I mean, there's people that have never seen Star Wars without it having the subtitle "A New Hope."
Yep. Oh yeah.
There's people who have never seen Star Wars without Jabba the Hutt in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's kind of a Star Wars thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let me move on to the next episode, which is Chapter 13, The Jedi. This episode was written and directed by Dave Filoni. The Mandalorian and the child arrive at the city of Caledon on the planet Corvus to find the population living in fear of the city's magistrate, Morgan Elsbeth, and her guards, including a hired mercenary named Lang. Elsbeth offers to give the Mandalorian a spear of Beskar steel in exchange for killing Ahsoka. The Mandalorian finds Ahsoka outside the town and presents the child to her. Using the Force, Ahsoka determines that the child's name is Grogu and that he had begun training as a Jedi before the rise of the Empire. She agrees to continue his training if the Mandalorian helps to defeat Elsbeth. They overpower the guards, free the citizens, and the Mandalorian kills Lang. Ahsoka confronts Elsbeth and demands to know the whereabouts of her master, Grand Admiral Thrawn. Afterwards, Ahsoka refuses to train Grogu due to his close attachment to the Mandalorian. Instead, she directs him to an ancient temple on the planet Tython, where Grogu can use the Force to find another Jedi and decide his own fate. She also gives the spear to the Mandalorian. Nothing much happened in this episode.
No.
Yeah.
We can move on.
We can just move
Right,
on.
filler.
Filler.
May as well have been a clip show.
This is the episode I had been waiting for since I first saw Ahsoka on Clone Wars, to be honest with you. Well, maybe about second season of Clone Wars.
Well, I was going to say, Craig, did she really grab you from the get-go?
No, she grew on me. She has one of the best story arcs in all of Star Wars.
She really does. She really does. Like, literally a favorite character of mine now. But I was like, who the hell is this when I first saw her?
Hey, Sky Guy, R2E.
Right.
Like, what?
Let's go, Snip.
I think this character, out of all the characters that Filoni has come up with over the years, and this is arguable. Obviously, everybody has their favorite. Their favorite.
No, it's not arguable.
Creation, but well, that's good. But yeah, I mean, Craig, you said about she does have one of the best arcs in Star Wars because it's been going on for quite some time. I mean, how many seasons of Clone Wars plus? Her appearance in Rebels at the end.
The end of season 2 of Rebels, those last 2 episodes, is perfect Star Wars. Knowing the rest of her story to get to that point is absolutely perfect Star Wars. As good as any live action you've ever seen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with that, Craig. I do think if you have to cite the most important episodes or sequences, I'd always throw back to that, and also a little later in Rebels when Maul and Kenobi meet up again. I think that episode is like tremendously important to canon and so well done. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So for anybody who hasn't watched Rebels, there's a lot of gems within that series.
Oh my gosh.
I personally prefer, I loved Clone Wars, but I actually liked Rebels more.
Same.
All right, good to hear. In terms of this episode, again, Grogu's got a name.
Grogery is his full name, by the way. I will not call him Grogery. I will not use Grogu. It's either Baby Yoda or Grogery from now on for everything.
Yeah, I was also reading that for 2020, 62% of Star Wars merchandise income was child products.
Wow.
I believe it, and
Yeah.
that's still kind of amazing that this was something that didn't exist 2 years ago. But I think that also shows you how quickly the template can change in this universe.
David Toby had a quick little comment here.
Yeah.
Some people haven't seen a version of the Sarlacc without a beak, and that took me a second. But yeah,
yeah, he's not wrong.
Rando things from Star Wars.
Yeah, it became much more of a scary vagina when they added.
I'm not going to say my are scary.
The mention of Thrawn was like a jump off the couch moment for me. That was like the happy clappy thing. And and especially with these episodes, I'm watching them. It's like 7 a.m. So
you have to watch it as soon as you wake up on Friday morning, or else somebody's going to spoil it for you.
Okay, I will move on to the next episode, and the name of the episode is a bit of a spoiler. So this was an episode directed by Robert Rodriguez, and if I'm not mentioning the writer, it's Jon Favreau for most of these episodes. If there is a different writer, I'll mention it. And this is Chapter 14, The Tragedy. The Mandalorian takes Grogu to the ancient temple of Tython and places him on the Seeing Stone at its center. Grogu meditates and is surrounded by a protective energy field. Boba Fett soon arrives with the mercenary Fennec Shand, who the Mandalorian had previously left for dead on Tatooine. Fett explains that the armor worn by Cobb Vanth belongs to him, as his father Jango was a Mandalorian foundling. The Mandalorian agrees to return the armor in exchange for the safety of Grogu, just as Moff Gideon arrives and deploys stormtroopers. Fett, Fennec, and the Mandalorian repel the stormtroopers' attack, during which time Grogu finishes meditating and the energy field around him disappears. Gideon destroys the Razor Crest from orbit before deploying his droid Dark Troopers, who succeed in capturing Grogu. To honor their deal, Fett and Fennec promise to help the Mandalorian get Grogu back. They travel in Fett's ship Slave One to Navarro to ask Dune's help in breaking criminal Migs Mayfield out of the New Republic prison. I did mention that that Gideon destroyed the Razor Crest. So
that ship can't catch a break.
Yeah.
No, not at all this season.
It was practically destroyed every episode in the first couple of episodes. Pieces were falling off of it in space. It's amazing that they.
This was an episode where I really felt like, holy shit, no one's safe.
Yeah,
it was really that level of anxiety during the fight scenes that things could turn on a dime one way or another. And I thought with this one, just a remarkably well crafted episode. I love this episode.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, love or hate the prequels, it was so great seeing Tamar Morrison just really get his due, get in there. Yeah. And for Boba Fett to finally not just be some background character that gets wasted in a second.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot to that, that we're, and we'll talk about another development later on, but I think this is, one of the additional steps toward him not just being a cool costume.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. He has lines, he has dialogue, he has a backstory that he can articulate, as opposed to just sort of like, this is what happens. Like
he's all mine.
The back of the toy box, like the back of the toy cart, kind of like, this is his history. That kind of thing. Yeah. We're actually getting a fully realized character. We also learn how Slave One works.
That was really cool.
He lies down to lift off, and then it goes right side. So I thought that was really interesting, because I'm always like wondering how exactly that weird shape ship worked.
But even like the cargo area where the rest of the folks were sitting, just to see how it just
it rotated.
It rotates up.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, and I thought that was just really interesting, because it is such an odd design for a ship. It was one of the weirdest looking ships from the original Star Wars trilogy, and it was just kind of cool to see how somebody figured out how this thing was supposed to work, and they made it work.
Yeah, and Ming-Na Wen, I mean, in my book, she can do no wrong. She can do no wrong, and especially at age 56, I think she is. I don't know what a reported age is, but there might be some Spice Girl years going on there. But I know she's 56 through a friend. Man, I mean, just amazing. It's and especially since some of us are in middle age. It's refreshing that that there's an age spread on the characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which you don't always get in every franchise. So,
and she looks great for that age too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the tragedy, and we move on to chapter 15, The Believer. This is an episode that was written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Cara Dune uses her new credentials as a Marshal of the New Republic to transfer Mayfield, an ex-Imperial, from prison to her custody. He agrees to help locate Moff Gideon's cruiser, but needs access to an internal terminal. He suggests a secret Imperial mining hub on Morak. There, Mayfield and the Mandalorian hijack a transport carrying the explosive mineral rhydonium, and they managed to reach the mining facility despite attacks from local pirates. They get Gideon's coordinates from the terminal, but the Mandalorian is forced to remove his helmet in front of others for the first time since he took his Mandalorian oath. The pair are confronted by Mayfield's old Imperial commanding officer, whom Mayfield kills when he gloats about atrocities committed by the Empire in Operation Cinder. Mayfield and the Mandalorian escape with the help of Fennec, Dune, and Fett. Dune decides to let Mayfield go. The Mandalorian sends Gideon a transmission warning that he is coming for Grogu, paraphrasing a similar speech that Gideon had previously given.
Pedro Pascal's acting in this episode was just jaw-dropping. The vulnerability he displayed when he took off the helmet, and his just inability to even articulate words anymore was just absolutely astounding.
Yeah, just that this tough guy behind a mask, just seeing how vulnerable he can actually be.
Right.
And I have to say, I also have to give it to Bill Burr, because he is not a performer I enjoy. And this was a performance. There was a lot of depth to his character. The rationale for the steps he took while they were on this mission were, really pulled at the heart at points. And, just also that they just perfected that bit in the canteen or the officer's mess, however you want to describe it, of just that building tension, and it just rises and rises on the most slow, molasses-like level. I thought that was just excellent filmmaking.
There was something in that scene that reminded me of another, and obviously there's like a lot of homages in every episode, depending on who's directing it, writing it, in just how to set up certain scenes. But that scene in the canteen where they are talking to the to the officer who clearly is kind of getting to the point where he's realizing that these two are not who they're supposed to be. That kind of reminded me of Inglourious Bastards, where they're in the bar and there's that back and forth with Tom Hiddleston. Was it Tom Hiddleston who was the no, it wasn't Tom Hiddleston. It was whoever the
I don't want to put hand on Bible with that.
No, it wasn't Tom Hiddleston. It was
was something
Magneto.
I thought of. Magneto. The dude.
Michael Fassbender. So it's Michael Fassbender doing it. But that sort of like rising tension where like they're talking about things and they're like there's something off, and then just one little thing, the counting, is just exactly what sets them off. But I agree. Bill Burr, man, I mean, I wouldn't have expected to enjoy him on screen like I did.
Well, it was a great play into the effects of PTSD on somebody post-war and how, it can come back later. And and Bill Burr's nailed it.
Yeah.
And the chase scenes with the pirates too.
Oh yeah,
man, it was just
so good. That was so much fun.
It was something else.
So this is another great example of them pulling from current canon. From Operation Cinder is from the Battlefront 2 video game, which is the Emperor's plan for what to do if he dies. And so, just another thing of just like the greater canon out there feeding in to this story to just they could have said anything, but just to throw something in there that some people are going to recognize and be like, oh, that's so cool.
Though it wasn't mentioned in the write-up, we did have a brief glimpse of Grogu's real power as a prisoner.
Oh yeah,
when he was kind of throwing some of the guards around. So
he's definitely teetering with the dark side.
Yep. And then, but also, a reference to some other scenes in Star Wars past where someone was captive. It was really well done.
Yes.
Last episode of the season, again directed by Peyton Reed.
Boy.
This is Chapter 16, The Rescue. The Mandalorian and Dune board an Imperial shuttle and capture Dr. Pershing. They enlist the help of Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves. In return, Bo-Katan gets Gideon's cruiser and the Darksaber, and the Mandalorian considers helping them to liberate Mandalore. They use the shuttle to get close enough to crash land on Gideon's cruiser, with Fett pretending to attack them in Slave One. Bo-Katan, Casca, Fennec, and Dune fight through stormtroopers to the cruiser's bridge. Meanwhile, the Mandalorian finds the Dark Trooper, barely defeats one. He finds a Dark Trooper, barely defeats one of them with the Beskar spear, and ejects the rest into space. He fights Gideon with the spear and overpowers the Moff, making him the rightful owner of the Darksaber. The Dark Troopers fly back onto the ship, but all are destroyed by Luke Skywalker, a Jedi that Grogu contacted on Tython. The Mandalorian gives Grogu permission to go with Skywalker and R2-D2 to complete his training. Later, Fett and Fennec travel to Jabba's palace in a post-credit scene on Tatooine, where Fett kills Bib Fortuna and claims the throne. Yeah. All right.
Again, filler episode.
Yeah,
not much happened in this one. Kind of a real downer, like a disappointment for a final episode of the season.
Yeah.
I
mean, part of this had to be a kind of a FU to the people that were pissed about Last Jedi and not seeing Luke in his full Jedi form.
That's what I was just going to say. Does anybody feel like that was their intent? Or was this just, Favreau and Peyton Reed and Filoni just wanting to have fun with a younger Luke Skywalker? I kind of think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Middle ground there.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Before this episode aired, I was in my head, I thought it was going to be Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, I did too.
That came to Grogu.
Partly
because of Filoni's involvement, but also we don't have a definite storyline about what happened to Ezra.
But that was also before we found out about the Ahsoka series, which now it makes sense. We're not going to see Thrawn in The Mandalorian. He's going to be the big bad for Ahsoka, and Ezra will show up there.
Yeah.
Yep. I kind of figured it was going to be Luke because it just made sense to me that, he's the one Jedi that we know is alive at this time that's actively searching for students. So for a Force sensitive to to use the Force and project themselves looking for other Jedi, it just made sense to me it was going to be Luke.
Yeah, and there's another example, though, too, of where you could call it fan service, but because of exactly what you just said, Craig, it actually does make sense.
That's right.
And fits the story that it be Luke Skywalker that show up. It's not just throwing Luke in there to have him in there.
Yeah. So that X-wing lands, and you're kind of like, yeah. And then you see the green lightsaber, and you're like, yeah. And then you see the gloved hand. You know, it's just like a slow reveal to who it finally is. I mean, of course, you knew as soon as you saw the X-wing, but you know, then you seeing all these additional kind of hints towards it, and it was like, you know, just this build up for the final reveal. And then the moment with R2-D2 and, you know, Grogu's now got a new best friend in R2-D2.
R2 has his most R2.
Like, are they going to out-cute each other? Like, how is this going to work? Are they just going to, like, cancel each other out and explode?
The farewell scene between the Mandalorian and Grogu, you know, that was, and
years.
You know, and then, you know, with an ending, I will see you again.
Yeah. I think we need to talk. I don't think Grogu is gone from the show, people.
No,
I mean, he needs a refresher course. He's already had more training than Luke's probably had at this point, right? I mean, he spent his
twice his age.
He spent his childhood at the Jedi Temple. You know, it's just I would assume he will be back with Mando.
Yeah, but even if next season is basically the liberation of Mandalore, I mean, there's so much, so much potential there. That
I think we're going to see him in probably 2 seasons back on the show, or we might get visits to the temple or something of that nature. You know, everybody thinking that he's going to die during, you know, Ben Solo's transformation to Kylo Ren. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think he's already going to be gone.
From a merchandising perspective, that would be idiotic.
Well, you had this trilogy where, you know, you get redemption for Ben Solo, and now you're going to make him the most hated person in the galaxy if you have him kill Grogu as well. You know, it's bad enough he killed Han Solo. You know,
I don't want to see that sad boy Tumblr.
Right.
And you know, I think it's also very important mentioning that we did have the setup for the Book of Boba Fett, which actually is filming.
Yes.
I was checking on the status, and both Andor and Boba Fett are actually filming at present. And we'll go a little later in the show about some of the announcements that came out of the Disney shareholders meeting about new projects that are happening. But this was completely on the down. I mean, this came out of nowhere. So God bless you, people at Lucasfilm, for keeping an actual surprise.
David Toby's asking how we felt about the deep fake. I thought it was done really well. I didn't really have that uncanny valley feel with Luke. I know there were some people that did, but for me, I felt like it was done pretty well.
I was surprised that they showed his face. I was actually kind of very much expecting it would be all over the shoulder behind, you know, Luke. Maybe you take the hood down, you see the back of the head, but you wouldn't see his face. It would still have the same impact, I think. I do think they did a great job with the deep fake, but there were some articulation problems, I think, when Luke was speaking. The mouth didn't move correctly, or didn't move at all.
And again, this, you know, just like with Rogue One, you know, this is a practice that's still in its infancy.
Exactly.
And I think by this time in 2024, those will almost look like silent movies compared to what they will be able to do.
Here's what we know about Star Wars. I was going to say, what we know about Star Wars is they will go back and fix it. When that technology is better.
But even
like a patch 2.0 or something.
Even like the Tarkin thing and Leia, you know who the character is supposed to be. You know, it's you do have to suspend a little bit of disbelief sometimes when you're watching a fantasy space show.
James even mentions here it was no worse than Leia and Rogue One, and I agree.
Right.
Not perfect, but the production series has been so well. I can't really complain about it.
And this is a TV show, not even a movie. I mean,
yeah.
And also, at least they actually had the participating actor with the actual voice,
right?
Which I think there's some benefit to just having that perfect timbre than an imitation.
Now I could see them.
Yeah.
I could see them recasting Luke for it. If he's going to have a larger role in a future show.
Especially given the time period.
Yeah, maybe
these years that we haven't seen. So
and maybe even have Hamill do the voice, but recast him. I could see something like that, but we'll see. We'll see how they do it.
The best example of that, and this was something I didn't know for like 15 years after I saw the movie, was that Christopher Reeve did Jeff East's voice, who was the younger Clark, the teenage Clark.
Yeah.
And that's seamless, and that was filming in 1977 with 1977 technology, so things like that can be done, even on what effectively is an analog level like we had before. So it'd be interesting if they do take that route. But and that was another thing where I did feel while we were watching this is like there's more to Luke's story that we'll see. Which is
I think they just want to give a little bit of space maybe before they go too much further into Luke's story. A little separation from Skywalker. But yeah.
David Tobey has another opinion too, that they don't see recasting after the deepfake. I mean, it's a possibility. They could do anything really. I think having an entire show or having a lot of screen time, a lot of screen time with a deepfake is probably going to be a little bit too much at this point.
I agree.
We'll see. I mean, they can do anything, and we're years away from a Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and also going with Grogu, we don't know shit about how the species ages. It might be he closes his eyes and he's like a adolescent, and he's like a teenager.
How would you feel about them exploring Luke's story more in animation, where you could have Mark Hamill be the voice?
Yeah.
But, I mean, they've proven that they can do animation really well with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I mean, that's how we got the additional story for Anakin. I don't see that, they wouldn't do that for Luke at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all in agreement. The Mandalorian season 2 is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I don't know.
No negatives to it for me at all. Even the quote unquote filler episodes were great. So
yeah,
I do have a negative, and I know it's just me being too greedy of a fan, but I thought the episodes were too short. And there were some episodes, obviously, because it's not on TV, it's on a streaming service. They're not really beholden to commercial breaks or any kind of like time schedule. But there were some episodes which I was like, oh man, it just started. Why is it over already? 30 minutes or less.
That's a sign of a good
I had the reaction
show.
for some episodes where I was like, oh, it's 38 minutes. That felt like 3 hours.
Yeah.
The episode with Boba and Fennec, that was the shortest episode.
I know, it was so short.
There was a ton in there.
But there is this component now that we have streaming as part of our psyche, that episodes can take as long as they need to take. I mean, there's some series I love, but God knows The Flash would be definitely benefiting from having a few 38-minute episodes over 44. There's it's great to have this mechanism.
I was going to say, I think the episodes need to be exactly as long as they need to be to tell that episode's story, and not a minute longer, not a minute less. And I think that's what they're aiming at. And the fact that we are left with basically a cliffhanger at the end of each one, that's what's making you want more immediately. So,
Yeah, and I think that there obviously is a strategy for just showing you almost as much as they could, but leaving you wanting a little bit more, because then it just gives you that much more to look forward to the next week, because unlike a lot of other streaming services, they are showing them one episode per week.
Yeah.
So you do get that full week to, to rewatch or to
speculate.
Which
speculate
is so smart, because you get the you get the conversation with your buddies at the comic book store talking about what's next week's episode going to be.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I can't wait for season 3 whenever season 3 happens.
Which it sounds like now that's going to be a little little farther out.
But I also understand that by 2023, with all these other series announced and in various stages of pre-production, that they're hoping by 2023 that there is new Star Wars content on Disney Plus every week.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited
just
for that.
just by the number of projects that they've announced. It seems like it seems doable if
right.
If the traffic is correct.
Trying to make it
since you mentioned seasons, though, I'm going to briefly talk about season 7 of the Clone Wars, which aired on Disney Plus. The episodes premiered between February and May of this year. We had 12 episodes. I'm going to start off here by saying the first 8 episodes, oh man, I was bored. I think there's probably some life in the Bad Batch, since we are going to see those characters again, but that storyline just wasn't ideal for that plugging in. Then you had the sisters, who I couldn't stand, but God, sweet baby Jesus, those last 4 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, those last 4 episodes, and for people that aren't aware, they were tied in with Revenge of the Sith, which is one of my favorite Star Wars movies. And to have those intertwined and the stuff happening to Ahsoka at the same time it's happening to Anakin was just absolutely amazing.
Somebody actually took clips from the Clone Wars and from Revenge of the Sith and kind of put them in how they would go, and it's out there on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's brilliant.
Yeah. Like when he's Anakin actually has his fall, she senses it. She knows it's happening, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's Filoni at some of his best work.
And I felt you had some of the best Rex moments and some of the best Maul moments.
Yeah.
In those 4 episodes as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
The stuff with Ahsoka and Maul, the book Ahsoka actually kind of starts at the end of the battle that she and Maul have. So because those episodes were supposed to have already happened, so you had this book that was taking place after that, and so to finally be able to actually see that then after just kind of reading the tail end of what happened in a book,
right?
It's interesting about things that were prepared for the Clone Wars, and the issue of canon has provided some interesting developments, like the when Marvel started again with the Star Wars license, that was a very definite starting point for what was canon. But they did bring in Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir miniseries, which was supposed to be additional episodes. And I believe there was something with the Nightingales as well, and Ventress. Is that true?
Dark Disciple.
Disciple. Okay.
Yeah. So it was actually Katie Lucas who wrote the storyline for that story that was going to be for the episodes, and then somebody else took it and turned it into a book,
which was an amazing book, by the way.
It really was. I didn't know a whole lot about Quinlan Vos other than his few appearances, but man, he quickly became such a cool character in my mind.
Yeah, that's Caleb's guy. there. That's who Caleb loves, is Quinlan Voss.
Was Dark Disciple the book that came out first as an audiobook, and then?
No, that was
because that was also connected with Dooku, right?
That one. It was actually called Dooku something, and that one explored more of his upbringing and him in the as a Padawan it was really cool, and it is now available as an actual novel. But yes, that came out as an audio drama.
Okay, cool.
And it was really good too. It was it gives like the backstory on what his parents didn't want anything to do with the Jedi and that sort of thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check that out for some time because Dooku was my first Star Wars crush. After all this, I like the Silver Daddies. What can I say? And they're rich and have boots. Oh, forget it.
Those are some nice boots. So John Runyon actually has a comment in here, kind of going back to what we were talking about, and actually kind of what we're going to be talking about. Do you think they will do more than one series at a time? Do you think they'll do one series at a time like Marvel shows, or do you think there may be more than one original series running at the same time, so concurrently? I mean, we've got a while before they would get to that point where there'd be enough content for it, but I think they would just do the one series at a time, and then
I think one at a time. I mean, that's I think how they're going to keep Disney Plus subscribers.
Yeah,
they want you to have if they have all that content and group it together where then they end up having gaps of no content to play. Well, that's just poor planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also do think that this is a franchise that has a history of avoiding oversaturation. Yeah. There have been very few points where you've had more than one thing happening at a time outside of comics and novels. I mean, those are clustered.
I think they're scared of that after Solo.
I was going to bring that as well. That's the big what if is, what if Solo had been released in December instead of mid-year? If there just wasn't enough time between the films to provide enough distance.
I am so sorry.
Or at least it was less than less than 10 seconds, so we don't have to pay for the royalties.
My receiver is under my desk here, and I pressed the power button.
Okay, well, I've been providing references throughout the show about the upcoming shows, so probably this is as good a time to list some of them, and you guys can talk about what you're looking forward to and what you're really looking forward to. Again, the Book of Boba Fett is going to be a live action series. There is an Andor TV series that covers the rebel spy Cassian Andor 5 years before Rogue One. Again, all these series are going to be on Disney Plus. Obi-Wan Kenobi, a series that is bringing Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi after the events of the original trilogy. And on the Investor Day, they did reveal that Hayden Christensen would reprise his role, and they were very specific to say this as Darth Vader. In that there is a female-centric live-action series in development called The Acolyte, which is involved with a show that I loved, Russian Doll. One of the co-creators is serving as the head writer and showrunner on that. And this is an episode which will take place during the late period of the High Republic era. We'll talk more about High Republic a little later. I'm sorry. There's, it's all intertwined here, folks. Ahsoka was announced, and it exists alongside The Mandalorian and another series, The Rangers of the New Republic, which will be interconnected stories, which will culminate in a climactic story event. And again, we have Rosario Dawson reprising her role. Lando is another Disney Plus limited series focusing on Calrissian. And Outside of that, there's going to be the animated Bad Batch series, which is a sequel to Clone Wars, set after the events of Clone Wars. Then there's an anime anthology series of 10 short films that we don't know too much about, but what we do know about this is going to involve some really huge high-name anime creators from Japan, and that's called Star Wars Visions. And apart from that, there is one film in development to some advanced stage. Again, we keep hearing some other things about what? Oh God, Steve.
Ryan Johnson.
No. Thor Ragnarok and
Taika Waititi.
Okay, that he has a film in development, but the one that seems to be the most advanced and was part of the announcement was the Rogue Squadron film that we mentioned earlier. That's going to be directed by Patty Jenkins, with the interjections of Ryan Johnson, there is another trilogy series separate from the Skywalker saga. That is being developed by Ryan Johnson, who had helmed The Last Jedi. So I think that's pretty exhaustive. Was there anything I missed there?
No.
Apparently, there might be a droid special. Or one-off miniseries that'll be coming out as well. But there's actually been rumors about a lot more movies. Kevin Feige is potentially going to be helming one. You've got the Ryan Johnson trilogy has been teased for a while. J.D. Dillard apparently also a director. He did Slight. If anybody has ever seen Slight, Slight's a great movie. Really enjoyable.
It's also worth mentioning that there were films that were in development that when Solo underperformed, that they put the kibosh on. And you can't even say Solo underperformed because at this point it has broken even.
Yeah, it's if I had a bomb in the Star Wars universe, I would be extremely happy because I would definitely be able to retire. It's just I think the what we call them, the imperial incels, I think, with all of the negative wishful thinking that they want death to the current Lucasfilm creative group, except for Favreau and Filoni.
Yeah, they all hated Lucas, but now they all want him back. So
they all want Lucas back, and they want to get rid of
Kathleen Kennedy.
Kennedy. They probably have dartboards, with her face on them. The thing is, if I were Disney, Kathleen Kennedy has been making tons of money for my company. They haven't lost anybody. They haven't lost money with Kathleen Kennedy, really. I think the closest they came was Solo, and even then they made everything back. It really was just the negative press that became that issue.
Well, that movie really only had issues because of the second filming of it. If they had filmed it once, probably
the original directors.
And it's also that's also like Superman 2 disease, in that to get credited, you have to reshoot 60% of the film.
Right.
Or 60% of the film has to be your work, whether it's reshots or current shots. So, that guy, Colin, what's his name? Colin Trevorrow, whatever.
Trevorrow.
Yeah. It sounds like his name is mud now in the industry. Don't yell at people all the time.
Is that what happened?
It's not. Oh yeah, they said on Jurassic he was a terror.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
it's too bad. Too bad.
It's just too bad.
Just too bad.
Of the series that have been announced, I mean, for some reason, like Rangers, the Ranger series, because there's so much mystery around it. In some ways, that's the one I'm most interested in. And I know, let's say this: you can be a fan of Cara Dune without being a fan of of the actress and their
it's difficult,
problematic stance.
I agree.
I can't imagine Disney's not going to really come down on her, especially if she has the potential to be a lead. And be the top of the call sheet for a particular series. So,
do the apology tour. She should prep for the apology tour now, even though she may not have to do it until next year. It's never too early to start.
Well, and so you talked about the Ranger show, and obviously then Ahsoka. I think that's where, when they're talking about that big culmination, I think that's going to be Thrawn.
Yeah,
could be.
We have a quick update here. David Toby correcting us that Trevorrow was not involved in Solo. He was actually supposed to be doing episode 9 before he.
Well, then who got the kibosh and Solo?
That was
Lord and Miller who were doing Solo. I remember it was a pair. It was a pair. It was a team who were doing it originally, and they got booted and replaced by Ron Howard.
I am sorry.
But yeah,
sorry, that was when I walked away. I should have stayed here.
Of course, I never remember the names for any of these, and they immediately went on to Into the Spider-Verse, is what David Toby says, and is like, yeah, of course, and that one was such a bomb. So
nobody.
But they didn't have to work with real people; they got to work with animated people and real voice actors.
We could get into the whole litany of problems as to why they were replaced on Solo. So, it's neither here nor there. What happened is what happened, and we got what we got.
And I still enjoyed the movie. I did not hate that movie at all.
It's a fun science fiction film.
Yeah, it's not near my favorites, but
it's a heist. It's a good heist movie in space.
Yeah.
The only the main female I didn't like. That was the only
Kira.
I just there was no chemistry of her with anybody on that set, and that element just didn't work.
But, I'm intrigued with the character, though. Like there was a book too with her and Han of stuff that took place before the movie, and like the character is an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Was that was that a book, or because I haven't read that, and I haven't read Han Solo Imperial Cadet, the comic series. I didn't know.
What I'm talking about is called Most Wanted, and it's a prequel to Solo, so mostly on Corellia and stuff. But if they ever developed a series, and I don't know if this is something that could be put into the Lando series or whatever, but I would actually be very interested in some type of Crimson Dawn type series, and maybe get to see a little bit more of what Maul was doing there, and see Kira there. What, maybe a different actress or whatever. I
think that's very likely to happen in the Lando series. I don't think it's going to be the main story of Lando, but I guarantee there will be some Crimson Dawn stuff in it. Or I can almost guarantee that. Yeah,
I mean they'll be running in the same circles, so to speak, and
that's right.
But see, they also haven't specified though which version of Lando though that this show is going to be. I heard one speculation, and I would really like this. They had Donald Glover like doing his Calrissian Chronicles. If they had like Billy D. Williams telling somebody the stories of the Calrissian Chronicles, and then bookend with him, and then have Donald Glover like doing the actual stories. But that could be really fun.
That would be kind of cool. But I mean that's still a couple years away. Craig disappeared. It's still a couple years away. Who knows if it'll be what's going to happen for that one. But there's so much to look forward to. I think the next one that we are getting is Bad Batch.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that's the next one in the line, and then Book of Boba Fett or Andor, one of the two.
Well, Book of Boba Fett is, at least we've heard that that's going to be December of this year. And I think Bad Batch is supposed to be maybe even spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we get Andor somewhere in between there, that'd be great. I'm not 100% counting on it, but
yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
So I was hoping if Craig was here that there we go. Yay.
Sorry guys, I had some technical difficulties there.
Okay, well, we're glad you're back. I'm glad on my end that it was early on in the game here. I think at this point we should move on to the High Republic, which is an initiative within the Star Wars universe, and it will factor into some of the live action and animated stuff later on. But we do have a book and a comic book that came out this year, and this was very much a 2021 introduction. So I know with Craig and Mike, you've read some of the material. So why don't you tell us what's going on there in the High Republic? The only thing I know about it is it's centuries prior to the prequel.
Yeah, so it's about 200 years, I think. We do have a younger, like 200 or 300-year-old Yoda. I guess he'd be like 400 or 500 years old. Still a young chap. From what I understand, I think he's going to be a little bit more in some of the comic book materials, which I haven't gotten into. But I've started reading Light of the Jedi.
Okay. That's
Charles Soule's book, which is like the first book of the series. I'm just about halfway through it, and essentially this High Republic kind of starts off with this like major like hyperspace tragedy that affects the Outer Rim, and it just kind of how the Republic comes together to handle this situation. But through this, we're getting new villains, kind of a marauder gang called the Nile. So this is still a period of time where the Jedi still believe that the Sith are completely non-existent. So there's, at least as far as I know, there's not going to be any Sith activity, but who knows how they end it or whatever. There is some rumor that with the series The Acolyte, because it's going to actually be a little bit more dark-sided centric, but is the tail end of the High Republic. There is some speculation and rumor that we might get a very young Darth Plagueis or even his master in the tail end there to kind of tie that stuff in. But Craig, go ahead if you've read anything more than me or know a little bit more.
Yeah, so you're further along in the book than I am, but I did read the comic. The comic was pretty entertaining. It's only one issue, so not a whole lot to tell. You have a young Jedi that's a Padawan that her master is a Trandoshan, and she's on a planet to take the Jedi trials to become a Jedi Knight. And she gets sidetracked because there's an immediate threat to one of the cities, and she actually leaves her trial to go save the city, which is actually the real test for her. And in the background of this, you have a space station that the Jedi have are.
Yep.
He's gone to carbon freeze.
No, he's frozen. We'll never learn the end of this comic. Come on. I want to shake the internet.
Well, so what I can tell you a little bit is the space station. So the Jedi in this era have, yes, they've got the Jedi Temple in Coruscant, but they've got temples elsewhere, and they're trying to have more of a presence in the Outer Rim. So if it's the same station that he's talking about, that's kind of one of the things that they've introduced in the book that I'm reading too. So, and now he's gone.
Yeah. No, That's good. I unfortunately, I think I was telling you guys earlier, I didn't buy it when it came out. It just came out 2 weeks ago, basically, and they sold out quick. I was at 2 different stores, my normal LCS and another one, and it was just gone. So at least it's got some popularity there. I'm pretty happy to see that it was flying off the shelves for a new Star Wars series, completely new concept. I mean, that's pretty cool.
That's what I think is really interesting about this, is just that there is a lot of interest in it, but it's so far, it's all print.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of takes me back to the later part of the expanded universe, when they would have storylines that would be planned out for like 10 to 12 books or something like that. And so those, I will say, kind of started to fall off the rails a little bit, but they started strong. So hopefully they learned something here.
Yeah, I can't say that before the Marvel license, before the comic book license went back to Marvel, I was reading a good amount of the Dark Horse in the last few years, and there was the Dawn of the Jedi series, and I read the third of the 3, not reading the first. I was so lost. But it sounds like this is just far more well planned, and the writer for the comic book is Cavan Scott. The only thing I've read of his is his Penguins of Madagascar series. So, and that was kind of awesome. That's the only thing I've read of his. I was looking through the list. But it's again, there is a run on this, as Steve had mentioned. So,
did any of you watch the launch special that they did on YouTube? It was a live thing from Lucasfilm, and they had all of the authors talking, and it was just kind of a launch special, and they were going on about what particular stories they were telling and all that good stuff. And at Celebration, I got to meet Claudia Gray, and she was just so cool. Timothy Zahn too. He was, but he's not doing any of these. But he does have another Thrawn book coming out.
Interesting. I wonder if that's going to tie in.
Yeah, I think that's the 4th one, right?
Yeah.
So the
did he do the actual Thrawn book, the one that's titled?
Yeah,
Thrawn?
he did the original.
Yeah,
he did the original 3.
Yeah. So in this new canon, so there was the Thrawn trilogy that took place while he was in the Empire. There was a book that came out last year called Ascendancy, which is Thrawn while he was still in Chiss space and in the Chiss Navy, and what he was like there. And so the second book of that series comes out this year.
The comic book series Thrawn was excellent, I thought. That was one of the more powerful miniseries that have come out from Marvel. So since we're talking comics at this point, do you guys want to talk about other things that you've read fairly recently in the Marvel Comics world?
As far as Star Wars or in general?
Yeah, just in general.
Because I only read Star
No, we're not asking you to go over to Spider-Gwen or anything like that. So.
Guys, I'm going to go ahead and drop, because I'm having such connective issues right now. It's just I can barely even hear anything, so I'm going to go ahead and drop out. So I'm sorry for that.
Well, we've been very happy to have you for the time that we did, Craig. And at this point, I'm glad that these problems are happening 90 minutes into the show instead of 9. So, thank you so much for joining us. But I completely understand.
No problem.
I'm a veteran of that as well. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm really sorry, guys, but
not a problem.
Thanks again for having me on the show. All right.
And we'll definitely let people know about Southern Fried Geekery and everything. And thanks for joining us.
Okay, thanks. Talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye. So I mean, comics. I'm currently reading the Darth Vader, the main Darth Vader series, as well as the general Star Wars series. I love them. I love them both. I think they're exciting. The storylines are really great.
I just want to make sure, because again, I'm a year behind because I buy mine on the digital sales, but I buy them. And is it a point now that both Star Wars and Darth Vader are post Empire?
No. Oh, no? Yes. Post Empire Strikes Back. Yes.
Okay.
It takes place. The Star Wars main series takes place immediately after Bespin City.
Okay.
With basically they pick up Luke and leave the planet, and of course encounter the issues that the other rebel fleets have been encountering as well. So there's a lot of you really get to see kind of the dark time that the rebel forces were going through between Empire and Return. Where they're more or less on the run. They're still on the run. They're still on the defensive, and things are pretty awful. But there's been some great character introductions. You get to see more about what Luke is up to, post Empire, and post training on Dagobah, kind of following his own journey. I think it's really great. You also get the introduction of Poe Dameron's parents. As side characters joining the rebellion. It's really cool. There's a lot of promise there. There's a lot of interesting story beats. The current state right now with Star Wars, or the current issue, the latest one, has the precursor to the protocol droids. So 3POs basically, generations back. Protocol droids or translation droids. They rescue one from an Imperial museum on Coruscant because it speaks this long dead, I think it's Tarawa language, that the rebels need to use in order to code their messages. Because unfortunately the Imperial codebreakers have been able to decipher almost all of their communications, and they're basically stuck not being able to communicate with the other cells and the other fleets. So they figure by using the Tarawa language, they'd be able to communicate a lot easier. But there's only one droid that speaks it, and it's this this ancient droid that barely works. But it gives a chance for Lando's compatriot Lobot to have a moment in the sun, and some interesting story beats there. But it's great. I mean, it kind of trades off the way the series is going. It trades off between focusing on Leia's group, Leia, Lando, and the group of rebels. Luke's sort of journey, trying to find out more about his history and get some more training. And then, of course, the Imperial, not Admiral. I think she's, she trained under Tarkin, and I forget her name right now. It's going to kill me because she's a very interesting character.
It's not Ray Sloan, is
it? No. I might have to look that up, and unfortunately, I don't have it right next to me. But no, she was training under him, and the only reason why she survived the destruction of the Death Star is because she had failed him in a test that she had placed for her, and so she stole an Imperial shuttle to go and fix the error. And after she left the Death Star dock, that's when it got blown up. And so she was given another chance by the Empire, by the Emperor, and has been mopping up the remains of the rebel fleets. So it's very interesting.
I'm gonna
mix storylines.
I'm gonna have to pick that one back up. I think I read the first 2 issues when it rebooted, and then I just kind of focused on Darth Vader just because I've been reading so many books. I wasn't letting myself kind of get involved in comics too. But yeah, so I'm all caught up on the current Darth Vader series, which ironically, it's focusing right now on a Darth Vader story of him. Basically, it's kind of tying into the Rise of Skywalker, where he's searching for the Wayfinder to go to Exegol. I mean, it's
Yep. There's some interesting beats in that book as well. I like the sort of tying up of his of kind of what happened to Padme. He does go
that
out.
was great.
It was incredible to bring back all those characters that we haven't seen since Phantom Menace. Just having some of that sort of brought back and try and figure out what happened.
So there's a couple books written actually by a lesbian author, but Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril are both books that are Padme centric, and so all of her, it goes into more detail with her handmaidens and all that stuff. And so the second book came out right before the Vader series, so there was a heavy tie-in to reintroducing the handmaidens in these books, and then getting to see them then post Empire. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. And it looks like John Runyon here is also wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Aphra. 000 and BT1 are where it's at. We need them back in the series, though. Evil droids rock my world. That is one of the things. Dr. Aphra, I haven't read the series, but when she was first introduced, I think in the Kieran Gillen Darth Vader
Star Wars series.
Oh, Star Wars series. Oh, was it
Star Wars or Vader? Maybe Vader. I don't know.
I mean, they crossed over.
I get confused.
Bit, so.
Yeah,
she was actually a big part of the Vader series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
for some reason I feel she was introduced in the Star Wars ongoing. So, but
that is possible.
But by issue 12 and 13, there was a substantial crossover.
She did cross over because she was doing some missions with
Luke,
Han and Leia and Luke.
Yeah. So for what I've been reading, I'm about a year behind at least with Star Wars. And as I was telling these guys before we started, you can even see here, I'm like, I got lots of paper. So when the Star Wars license went back to Marvel, I made a conscious decision about a year into it that I was going to go all digital with it. So my most recent pickup with a digital series, and I'll try to show this here, is Target Vader. And with this particular series, it reintroduced or introduced, however you want to approach it, Baylor Valance, also known as Valance the Hunter, who was a bounty hunter that was introduced in the original Marvel series. There was a coda issue number 108 that kind of wrapped up everything from the Marvel series, and it's just crazy shit. Jackson, the 7-foot rabbit and stuff. And if you ever read it, I mean, especially after Jedi, they had no idea which way to go, and it takes them forever to get off Endor, and it's a weird series. The more it goes on, but in the initial parts, we didn't have much, us old guys. I mean, Star Wars number 7, which was 2 issues after this one, which was after the movie, that and Splinter of the Mind's Eye were the first things where we could go, oh, there's more, So that was a particular favorite, co-created by Walt Simonson. A lot of similarities in terms of depiction with Cable, the later mutant leader of X-Force. And so he was a character within, I think, 3 arcs in the comic series. And again, this issue number 108 had a coda with that. The next month was when Target Vader came out. And in Target Vader, Valance accepts a contract on to kill Darth Vader from a shadowy organization called the Hidden Hand. Don't get too attached to the Hidden Hand. But it also it brings in a bunch of new bounty hunters and some old ones in the form of Dengar, the dude with the diaper on his head. And it tells the story and gives you some of the revised version of the background. The major bit about Valance is he's a droid hater. And this is not a spoiler because, again, this character came out in 1979. He's actually half droid. So, you hate what you are. And there's that element there. It was, not a bad series. It was like a 6-issue series that could have been 4 with the amount of story that they had. It's nice to see in Star Wars comics that you literally see pew, pew, pew written out at various points. That seems to be a conceit that they've been doing for about 2 or 3 years now. And one of the more important things is this led the groundwork to the ongoing Bounty Hunter series, which stars Valance and Fett and Bosk. And that's a series that's not gotten a lot of critical love, but to have those characters in some form on an ongoing basis is pretty cool. So that was my most recent read in Star Wars. And again, digital, this like I was looking here, the first issues of Galaxy's Edge was the last physical book I had. So what was this, like 2 years ago at this point or so? Yeah, it was a while. So so I'm doing the digital there, and that was the most recent one. So that's what I read.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. We are we've been at this for like an hour and 45. So at that point, they're not shutting the lights off on us yet, but we should start wrapping up an episode then. And when we wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears Up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week segment. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you woof at them. We do something similar. And this is where we spotlight something which might be a film, might be a comic book, might be a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener, or in this case, viewer, may be interested in sampling. I will start. I'm torn here because we're always gracious to our guests, but Steve's my lucky charm.
Go with Steve.
We didn't. All right, we'll start with Steve then. Okay, so Steve, tell us what your woof of the week is.
So my woof of the week is kind of something that we probably should have all had already seen because it came out last month. But it is Star Wars related, and it of course is the holiday special. The Lego Star Wars Holiday Special that was created pretty much as an homage to the original one years and years ago. Unfortunately, there was no, there was no mod running any kind of tavern, but it was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. It was goofy. They had a wonderful little, reason to touch on all these moments in Star Wars film history with this stone that would teleport Rey and BB-8 back through time in many goofy ways. But it was fun. It was cute. It had a lot of great touchstone moments, and definitely it's good for kids and of course nerdy adults who get all the references. But yeah, I recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch it anytime. You don't have to wait until Life Day to watch it. But the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special.
There's few things in the world I enjoy more than the Lego version of the Emperor. I think that's one of those things where it's just so perfect. Yeah, and through all the others like Freemaker and the other series, the Yoda Chronicles, they just have that voice. And that holiday special, that was pure joy.
Oh yeah,
that was so much fun.
May not have had Maud, but you did get Max Rebo. So
yeah, that's true.
All right, Mike, turning it over to you. What is your wolf of the week?
I should have thought of something ahead of time. We've kind of talked about all the Star Wars stuff, so I don't really have a Star Wars recommendation. But I will say, so I am not a sports guy, but if you have Apple TV Plus, there's a series on there called Ted Lasso.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it and immediately started watching it again with my husband because he is a big sports fan. I have never watched a sitcom and immediately was like, I need to rewatch it right now. So sports fans or not, it's a show that it's just, there's a lot of heart to it. And so it kind of tugged at my strings.
Cool. And again, with that series, it's about an American that is taking over the management of a soccer team in the UK.
Yeah. So he's a college football coach then that goes to the UK to manage a Premier League soccer team.
Cool. And who's the actor? Jason Sudeikis? Is that?
Sudeikis, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's been
so amazing
in my conceptual queue for a while, and at some point like everybody I know who's seen it has loved it. So I do want to get to that. For my wolf of the week, I was trying to find something Star Wars related. With the way I live with, I have this place, but I also have an off-site bunker, which is where a lot of my stuff is because we wouldn't be able to move freely. We'd be hitting stuff everywhere. And I was looking what the oldest Star Wars thing I had in the house was, and it appears that it is the novelization. And you can see it's pretty beat up. This was a second printing. So that was June of 77. So this has been part of my life for 43 going on 44 years. But that's not exceptionally exciting. And I got to go back to sports, man. My Packers are playing in the NFC Championship. So that's my wolf of the week. Any positive energy you fellas can send over, I appreciate it. During the regular season, the team that they are playing against is the Buccaneers, which has Tom Brady as their quarterback. I fucking hate Tom Brady. I know there's a universe of people that do as well. So if you're watching this and in some agreement, please send that positive karma over to me. I'll send it over to my team and we will win and head into the Super Bowl.
I do have a huge crush on Aaron Rodgers though. So,
no, that's okay. That there's no shame in that. There's no problem with that.
Wait a minute. Who's the coach not the coach, the quarterback for Green Bay?
That's Aaron Rodgers. You got it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to. Well, for a second there, it sounded like that was a little bit.
I just don't. He doesn't.
He doesn't do anything for you?
No. Well, but they used to have, the Packers used to have a fullback named John Kuhn. Google him. You'll be happy I told you to. And he still does shows in Wisconsin when the games are being broadcast. So I really do think, because he's such a charming personality, John Kuhn, that he is going to have some kind of future in that field. He retired about 2 years ago. So
OnlyFans.
What was that thing we found? Like OnlyFans were like porn stores on Wish. Was that?
Yeah,
it's something no straight person listening will understand. But that's okay. If you have an issue with that, just ping any of us. We'll fill you in. Okay, so Mike, do you before we leave, do you want to promote anything, whether it's Real Gay or your band or anything?
Yeah, sure. Please, thank you. Please and thank you. Yeah. So, my podcast is the Real Game Movie Show, REEL. We were kind of on a little bit of a hiatus just because there haven't been a whole lot of new movies, but we're kind of ramping back up now with talking about what we're anticipating and all that kind of stuff, and then hopefully things are going to start coming back out. So, Real Game Movie Show. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all that stuff. And then, my band, Bava Choco, BAVACHOCO, kind of a throwback to classic metal of like Black Sabbath era and stuff like that. So, but it's all original. Check us out.
All right. Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. Oh, worth mentioning for Craig, if you want to check out his stuff with our friend and fellow bear Caleb, he is part of the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. And I got to salute them because they get a show out every week, every Sunday.
Every week.
Caleb I could never do that, ever. Ever. Life always gets in the way. So start this up again. Again, we are going to wrap the show up. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you can do so by downloading us through iTunes, listening to us through Stitcher Radio, and many of the other podcasting platforms. And also, I just want to promote again the YouTube channel that we now have. Please like us on YouTube. We really want to build some kind of strength in that format. So please do so.
I just subscribed. I just found that you had that. So I am a new subscriber.
Oh, that is so awesome. Okay, until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
If you're listening, you're going to hear a wolf and an explosion. We'll be back. We'll be back in 2 days, Thursday. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Okay, cool.